to see, okay, you put yourself out there again, you took another risk, and it's not that I failed in it, I just learned more about where I wanted my path to go.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of the Beyond the Scale podcast, and I am so excited about today's guest. She's definitely my favorite guest thus far and one of my great friends, and now I get to call one of my business partners, which is so amazing. And we have Christen Zammit with us today. We're going to talk about everything related to business, her personal life as a coach, her health and fitness journey, but then also how to just make sure that you grab hold of those opportunities in your life when they present themselves and how to build a career out of passion. So welcome, Christen.
MK, thank you so much for having me on. I am also very excited. This is, I think, my first time actually sitting down and talking through my actual story and how I became a coach, became an owner now, and I'm just very looking forward to today and our chat.
Well, I'm so excited you're sitting here, and your story is very unique, but also relatable to so many of our listeners because you truly went to college to study exercise science and you just followed your passion. And that is a huge risk that you took because you could have easily found a 9-to-5 job out of college doing something in your field, but you just followed the passion that you had around coaching and helping other people. So we have to really start from the beginning for everyone to understand your journey and how you got to where you are today as an owner. Yeah. So walk us through. And of course, I'll chime in because our story is, we're in the journey together. So walk us through that story.
Yeah. So I went to Roanoke College and I actually studied health and physical education. And it was in 2017. I was coming up and finishing my senior year there. And so when you're doing the teaching part, you have to go out into the schools and they want you to do all this practice with students. And I kid you not, the first step I took into the school to be a PE teacher, you see all these kids running around, and I took one look and was like, I have to control that. And I walked right out and was like, there's no absolute way. It just didn't sit right with me. And so I ran back to my advisor and in pure panic, because I was supposed to graduate a semester early too. Mm-hmm. And when I got there, I was like, what the heck am I going to do? They suggested I just finish out my degree without doing all of the teaching licensure stuff. And so I said, fine, was on the path to graduating early. And so it was the summer of 2017 where I was at the Roanoke Country Club with some of my friends just tanning by the pool. And I look over and I see you studying your NASM CPT personal trainer book. And I looked over at my friends and said, guys, she's studying personal training. It's in the fitness industry. Should I say something? And they go, you feel confident to do that? And I was like, yeah, why not? So I just sparked up a conversation with you. You had expressed that you were opening a gym later that year into 2018. And you were like, if you want to come check it out, by all means. And so I remember my family and I, we were going on a trip to Alaska. And I was like, oh my gosh, do I go on this trip? Do I not go on this trip? And you said, well, when you come back, we'll just connect. So you gave me your card. And that conversation truly changed the whole course of my entire life.
And you know what's funny is thinking back on the story now, at first, you forget all of these things. And now that I'm really thinking about it, I remember you walking over to me. And after talking to you, I remember just saying to myself, why did I tell her all of that? Why didn't I just say, I'm just studying to be a personal trainer? I could have easily said that, but instead I took the opportunity to say, well, I'm opening up a business and I'm not a personal trainer yet, but I'm studying to be, and here's where I'm going. Yeah. And then I remember walking with you to my car to give you one of my Blacksburg Fit Body Bootcamp official business cards, even though we were not open yet. Yeah. And just thinking back more in that time of my life, it was the summer before we opened, because we opened that August. Yeah. And I was frantically trying to figure out not only how to navigate opening up a business, but how to learn how to be a personal trainer and a coach. Yeah. And here I am recruiting someone else to do it when I haven't even done it myself. So I think that's a great message for our listeners that, I went out on a limb and I shared what I was doing with someone who then connected us. And then Christen went out on a limb, took that risk, overshared what she was going through in her life. And we both kind of bonded on that, like, kind of like that craziness that we were both experiencing at the time, like not really knowing what we were doing.
Uncertainty in a way.
Yeah, that moment of uncertainty, but we connected on that level. And I'm very glad you walked over to me.
Yeah. So upon that, you know, kind of how I worked myself up to ownership in a sense. When I came to Blacksburg Fit Body, I was still finishing up school. So I just worked as a part-time coach. And so you pretty much offered saying, you know, come when you can, see if you like it. And then upon graduation, I took that overall risk of still kind of getting like a part-time gig, but working not closer to full-time hours, I would say, but more consistently throughout the week. And I remember asking you, should I move to Blacksburg for this? And I was like, I'm graduating. Do I go back to North Carolina? What do I do? And you're like, yeah, like I'll give you the opportunity if you want to move here. And so then I remember after Roanoke, I made the move up to Blacksburg, Virginia, became a full-time, part-time coach, was just there all the time, really enjoyed it, and just kind of worked my way through all full-time positions, seeing, you know, what it actually took to be a coach. Because initially when you hear this term coach, it's like, oh, you just like work out all day, right? Or you just do X, Y, and Z, and it goes so beyond that. And I think being under your leadership and Trevor's leadership of learning the back end of the business and the way you guys challenged me with every challenge that we came across and just putting that trust into me made me realize like, okay, maybe I really am suited for this, you know, let me lean into this more. Let me keep going and keep pushing my own boundaries. And then, you know, when you set your mind to it, at the end of all those challenges, you're like, wow, I did that.
Right. Oh, definitely. And it's incredible that you like took that risk and you didn't get too bombed down with like the setbacks that you had during the journey to like keep going, because you know, I know your story, our listeners do not. Like, there were many setbacks. I mean, you worked for us and then you left and realized like the grass was not greener on the other side, came back to us. Then COVID hit. That was crazy for your career. So walk us through that a little bit. So you worked at Fit Body for 3 years or two and a half years.
Yeah, 2.5.
With us in Blacksburg.
Yep. In Blacksburg, and then I took the leap of faith of moving to Northern Virginia just for another coaching opportunity. And, you know, things, like you said, they're not always greener on the other side, but you learn from it. I never have any resent for anything. It's more so a learning opportunity to see, okay, you put yourself out there again, you took another risk, and it's not that I failed in it. I just learned more about where I wanted my path to go. Right. And so then I came running back to you and Trevor, and I proposed this nutrition coach position where I had a passion during quarantine during COVID. I was like, there needs to be a space for this, like online nutrition coaching. Like, you need a coach in your facility to keep your clients accountable during this time. Like, this is when people really need us the most. So a coach in their back pocket, letting them know that they truly have the support. And so I offered up this position, had no idea what was going to come about it, and didn't know the structure of it. I was just kind of making it up as I went, but I had so much passion to help these people during this time because I was living off of it, you know, like this is how I had to make an income. And when you're in that fight or flight response where you're like, it's do or die, essentially, am I going to live through this time in quarantine and make something out of it? Or am I going to like just crumble and be out of a job, you know? And so again, it's that one conversation again, you know, it's how it can change the course of your life. And so the one conversation of starting as a coach, the next conversation of opening up a different and new position within your business. So again, it's taking that leap of faith and trusting somebody else. And then from there, I guess it just got to the point where we were coming out of quarantine, you know, people were starting to be in person more. And I just had this misalignment in my life where I am a parrot. I love talking to people. I love connecting with them. And that was just a part of the online space that I was really missing. And so then something came about where you had asked me the question, have you ever thought about, buying into the franchise? And in my mind, I'm like, MK, you like sign my paychecks. Like,
Right.
you know this, like, you know what I make.
Haven't you been saving every paycheck?
I know. And so then it just kind of came about where, I was talking to my boyfriend about it, who is very supportive, who also ended up investing into this business, like with us.
Mm-hmm.
And it just came down to why not? You've been
Yeah.
doing this for X amount of years. What else do you see yourself doing? And this was a space that, of course, you have these doubts in your mind where you're like, me, a leader? Like, why me? Like, what gives me the right to think that I can own a business like this? And then there was one podcast, Ed Milet, who I had the amazing opportunity to listen to at the first ever Fit Body World Conference that I attended.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought up the question of, well, why not you? And so that is something that was roaring in my mind for that entire period when we were thinking about, partnering up, opening Ashburn. And I just kept asking myself, well, why not me? Like, I have worked myself through all these different positions. Is it because of my age? Is it because I'm young? Like, are people going to respect me? But I just had this feeling of burning passion for what I envisioned for the community that I lived in or that I currently live in. And I said, why not me? I wanted to create another opportunity for the community in Ashburn to get healthy, just another opportunity to prioritize your fitness.
Right. And I think it's been such a natural progression with your growth and just an organic progression over the years, because you started as a coach, as a part-time coach, and then you worked your way to full-time, and then you stepped out and, took a slight detour, but then came back full-time again as a nutrition coach. So you learned that side of the business. So you have the coaching, you learned the nutrition side. Yeah. Then, you're kind of working with Trevor and I trying to figure out, how do we grow Blacksburg's nutrition program? You implemented it into another facility of ours. You helped implement it in our Roanoke facility. And so then you started training a team on your nutrition program to look back and think about, you got to that point where the nutrition program got so big that you couldn't do it alone. So you trained Shelby, you trained Mike, you trained other coaches on how to run the program in our facilities. Yeah. And so you got that leadership, you got the leadership skills. And so it was such a natural progression. Yeah. So when you came to me I can't even remember when this started, really, last spring or...
I believe it was around April.
Yeah, April of 2022 when you came to me and we had those conversations. I don't know even who talked about it first.
Yeah.
To me, it was like a no-brainer. I'm like, this coach who's worked with me and for me for the last 5 years has developed incredible leadership skills that nobody could possibly teach some brand new person. Yeah. It's been such a natural progression, and it just makes sense. Like, what's next for you? Ownership. Like, that's what's next. Yeah. And so I think it was an easy decision for Trevor and I. And I remember thinking, when we're looking in the area that you're in, for our listeners, she's like outside of the Washington, D.C. area, about 45 minutes out, a ton of people, huge population up there. And we originally were looking at other territories. And as we're looking at the rent and just the cost of the build out, I just remember thinking to myself, I don't care what it costs, because I know that it's going to be amazing. Like, I just know it. And like, look at you now and like, let's talk about what has happened in the last 4 months. So Christen opened in October of 2022. And as we're recording this, we're 4 months in. And you already have...
So clocked in the other day, we have 170 members, but starting this past Monday when we started our Ultimate Transformation Challenge, we have 118 total challengers, with exactly 50% of them being non-members, and which is wild to think about. I'm like, where did all these people come from? Because as you're getting started too, and after grand opening, you have this flood of like people coming in, and people come and try it out, people will stay, people will leave. And then you're like, how is there more people? And then so with such a big area like Ashburn, as they kept coming in and I'm seeing these numbers, I'm like, we're just getting started. Like, this is crazy to think about. So sitting at 170 members right now. I think I haven't put in our total memberships from the challenge yet, but just, our goal by the end of this challenge is to be right over 200. And it's been a wild ride, to say the absolute least. So that's where we are.
So talk about, we're going to shift to like that owner role that you're in now. What has been like your biggest challenge?
Oh my gosh.
Stepping in from a coach to now the owner.
So I think upon kind of having that title in the beginning, I was always so used to, once I get feedback or a comment from somebody, I would always go to you guys, right? And I would say, hey, MK, like, this is what's going on in the studio right now. Can you help out? Where now, at the end of the day, it's on me. Right? It's like, now we have our coaching staff come to us or to myself, and I'm like, okay, wait a second. I'm the actual one that has to like show up and do this. I would say for me though, an ownership is feeling okay with giving responsibility to coaches, because I have always been that worker and that coach where I would go to you and say, hey, what do you need? Like, give me the work. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it well, and we're going to be fine.
Right.
And now it's stepping into that ownership, and now I have a team under me, and it's giving them the opportunities that you guys handed to me and allowing them to grow and develop as a person, as a coach. So I would say the most challenging part for me at the moment right now has been letting go of responsibilities that I feel as though are going to help our coaches grow more.
Right. Delegating.
Yes.
It has always been my biggest struggle as a leader, because as an entrepreneur and as a small business owner, you want to do so much yourself, and your business, like, you think it all rides on what you're doing, when in reality, it's your leadership, and it is the people that are working for you that are running the day-to-day in your facility as you, when you're not there. You have to develop them, and you have to delegate what needs to be done, and that takes time. It takes time. It takes energy. It takes trust, an incredible amount of trust, and it takes courage, because you have to have the courage to know that you're going to train them, and they're going to then do the best job that they can. And if they don't do a good job, it does kind of reflect back on you as a leader. And that's really hard. And a lot of times, because of that, leaders say, well, then I'll just do it myself. Yeah. And I've seen that with you in the last few months. Like, you're doing an incredible job of delegating, but then also there have been times where you're like, should I be doing this? Like, asking yourself that question.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. It's, just like you said.
Yeah. So generally speaking, how has your life changed after becoming an entrepreneur and no longer really working for someone else?
Yeah, I mean, the hours of work have definitely tripled. And so with that, but then at the same time, like, you are your own driving force at that point. Like, now your pay is a reflection of your efforts, your intentions. And so it's really your whole entire lifestyle now, you know? And I will say, setting boundaries has always been a challenge for mine, because when you're so passionate about what you do, you just have this sense of urgency that I want to help, and no matter what time it is, I'm going to get to that email, I'm going to get to that person. And so that has been, I would say, a challenging part. But at the same time, when you're in such an initial growing phase of your business, like, you're in the hustler stage, you know, you are up at the crack of dawn, you are there until 9 p.m. setting up for the next day, you're, responding to emails. There's no balance when it comes to success in that way. You know, you have to be relentless when it comes to it, because especially being new in the area, you only get one first impression. And do you want that first impression to be, oh, that person doesn't get back to me in 2 days? Or do you want that to be, wow, that person answered right away. She was more than willing to help me with any of my questions. And so being in this hustler stage right now, I always want to be, and I say this now, but in where I am and how I see the projection of the business that I own, I always want to know what's going on inside of it, right? With the passion that I have, I don't see myself outside of this industry. Again, I'm 26, so I'm saying this right now. I have no idea how my life is going to change from this, but I always want to know what's going on. And so that way I'm always able to kind of help out where I can.
Yeah. Well, and I think you do a good job too of like predicting the future and forecasting for the future, but staying in the present. And as a business owner, that can be challenging at times, because you have so many moving parts, and try to just like get quiet for a second and say, okay, what's going on right now? Do I know what's going on? What are we doing to move the needle forward? Yeah. And there's a lot of noise.
Yeah, and so back to your previous question of what's been a challenging part or the most is all the different hats that you wear. You know, there are so many different hats within your business. And then when you take yourself outside of your business, being a daughter, being a girlfriend, being a friend, you know, you have all these different areas to tap into. You know, you have to kind of think about the season of life that you're in and how that is going to impact your life in the future and move your needle in that sense. Like, which hat needs you the most at this moment to benefit your life? And being this boss babe, being this business owner, like, I need to be in that area of my life right now, you know, for the future.
Right. All right. So what's your favorite hat to wear
My favorite hat.
right now?
Oh my gosh. I mean, so I'm not coaching on the floor as much as I would say when we first opened our doors. I love being a coach. I love being a person for people to come up to and just say, like, thank you so much for opening Ashburn Fit Body, or thank you so much for helping me stay consistent. I love the coach hat. You know, I just love being there, seeing how, you know, our whole team, I have to give huge credit and major props to our whole Ashburn Fit Body team just for impacting the lives of our community every day in there. But I love the coach hat. But I also, to answer your question, I also love the hat that is providing opportunity for coaches, you know, because I was given like countless opportunities from you guys, and I feel it's in my job to pay that forward.
Yeah. And I think what you said speaks volumes of you and the brand. You said people will say, like, oh, you're the owner, like, and they'll come up to you, and you share with me at challenge orientation that someone said, it's awesome that you're actually here as the owner. And one thing that does speak volumes about Fit Body Bootcamp and you as an owner in particular is your presence in your studio. And most Fit Body Bootcamp owners, they are present in their studio, where think about other franchises, even other fitness franchises, where you do not know the owner of that facility. They may own 10, 15 facilities. And there are people in the Fit Body Bootcamp brand that own 10, 15 facilities, and they're fantastic, but they built an amazing team to run their studios as they would, because they cannot be in 15 places at once.
Yeah.
But you were boots on the ground in the studio, and people love that. They love to see how invested you are in your facility, in your community, and in your coaches to train and lead them to be the next leaders of your organization.
Yeah, I mean, you're setting the standard for your team. You know, if I was that owner where I didn't have a heavy presence in there, and you know, your product, your experience, which in boutique fitness, that's everything, your culture, like that is what's going to help your community grow. If you're not setting that standard, you're setting your future team up for failure, you know? So being there, like, I'm looked at as a leader now for our team, and what's the standard? What's the expectation? Should be nothing short of, like, I should always be at the highest level for them, right? Like, when I'm in there, when I'm on the floor, it's a practice what you preach. It's not a, like, I don't care what stage, what your position is. You're scrubbing toilets, you're picking trash up off the floor, like anything like that. You're straightening up weights. Everybody is equal or in that equal playing field for that.
Yes. And going back to Ed Milet, I know you love Ed.
I love him.
He says, you only get your standards. So if you don't have any standards, you get nothing.
Yeah.
So you have to set your standards. You have to set the standards and expectations for your coaches. And then that spills out into your facility.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. So I want to leave our listeners with some areas of, like, your zones of genius that you have developed over the years. So my first question for you with that is, like, what is one unique point of value about your personal growth journey that the audience should try to adopt?
Figuring out your identity, and you need to think about the highest version of yourself and think about all the qualities, all the actions, all the steps that that you have to take in order to become that person. When you dial in who you want to become, when you dial in your identity, it's the most powerful words are the ones that come after I am, right? Matt Wilbur taught me that in one of our masterminds. And I think about that constantly. Like, when I think about being a Fit Body franchise owner, what are the qualities of that owner? When I was thinking about being a nutrition coach, what are the qualities of that person, that version of Christen? You know, I think it's very unfair for us to think that, you know, we're always going to be this type of person for the rest of our life, right? And so when you're presented with opportunities, you have to think about having your identity be fluid, right? You need to adapt with that and pivot as needed for your success. So I would say dial in your identity with where you are right now in your season of life and just be relentless in working towards that person. Show up every day, and showing up could be the bare minimum. It's not going to be something where I'm working out every single day to be a fitness owner.
Right.
I'm pouring into, maybe I have meetings on meetings all day. That's how I'm pouring into that version of myself that day.
I love that. Just owning yourself, owning the power of I am and your identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received as a business owner?
Oh my gosh, it actually came from you because the countless amount of times that I have called you and been like, how do you manage all of this? Because every day your list adds up. You have your regular day-to-day things that you're doing in your business and operations, and then you have your outside life, and then next thing you know, you have a list of 20 items, and you're like, which ones do I get done? It's to make time for yourself. I know I'm preaching, you got to get your responsibilities done. But at the same time, your list will always be there. If you are not taking care of yourself, if you are not taking that time for you 1 or even 2 times out of the week to prioritize your fitness, your health, your mental state, you have to be the best version of yourself in order to pour out the best version.
Right.
So,
which leads me to my next question. It's what do you do in your daily routine to take care of yourself? When we at Beyond the Scale, we talk about everything: health, fitness, mindset. So what do you do to take care of yourself?
Yeah. I personally attend Fit Body Bootcamp, our sessions, because I also want to know what our coaches are delivering. I do my 30-minute workouts at least 3 times a week. I eat nutritiously, and I'm not tracking every single macro that goes into my body at the moment because, frankly, I hate saying this, but I don't have the time to be weighing things out, tracking it. And over the years, as I've developed more nutrition knowledge, it's been easier for me to sustain, right? And so focusing on whole foods, better quality foods, the one piece of nutrition advice that I can give to our audience is the quality of your food should always take priority over the quantity of your food. No matter how much you're eating, you're going to feel good when you eat good or eat better, right? Nutritiously.
Definitely.
So
I just had a healthy Pop-Tart today that you said you buy frequently.
Yeah.
Life-changing. Have no idea what brand that was. I took a picture of it. Definitely getting those.
I will say another thing that I do for self-care too or taking care of myself would be when I try to do this majority of my week, but when it comes to my relationship, wearing the girlfriend hat, when I get home around 8:30, 9 o'clock, I don't open the computer again because something that Ed was saying was you have to think of the main characters in your life. And when you think of these people, those are the ones you need to be pouring into the most. Like if you're on your deathbed, like who would be by your side? Like why are you like agonizing over all these messages for people that don't know you when you can be spending time with your loved ones?
Right.
And so during our week, at least one day out of the week, my boyfriend and I on Wednesday nights, we make dinner together and there's no technology. No matter what is going on, we kind of just set time aside for each other, and we have a weekly check-in. So we just ask each other, how's it going? Like, how's your week? And so I think really communicating with your partner is huge for both of your mental sanity, but emotional part as well.
Oh, definitely. And I think something that people that are not in this industry do not understand is as a fitness business owner in an industry that is continuously evolving and growing by the day. It's one of the top industries to be in right now. We are connected in every different way all day long, 24/7. And unless you are intentional about disconnecting, you will just always be connected.
Yeah.
Like you have Facebook, Instagram, you have Facebook Messenger, which, oh my goodness gracious, sometimes I delete Facebook Messenger on the weekends, like Friday evening to Sunday evening, because that's how many Facebook messages I get. Yeah. And our members love Facebook Messenger. And it's a great thing to have. It's a great tool to build that connection and relationship, but it can also distract you as a business owner and your productivity because you know what you need to be doing to move the needle in your business and you want to take care of your clients to a certain level, but then at the same time, like you have to set those boundaries. And you talked about this the other day briefly, but that's taking away from the energy that you need to then do something else to help grow your business, grow your team, and connect with your clients. And so you have to set those boundaries on with things that are like taking away from the energy that you need to survive.
Yeah.
All right. So my last question that I want to
Okay.
ask is, do you have any life hacks that you've learned over the year to help with like productivity or just for your overall nutrition and health and fitness?
Let's see. Any
Any
hacks?
hacks or tips?
Tips. Get a planner. No, I am definitely
Love
one.
planners.
Love the planners. I am definitely one that if I don't write it down, it won't get done. But having one of those time planners where it breaks out every hour, when you get overwhelmed with all these things like running in your mind, if you tell me one thing and I don't write it down, it goes in one ear and out the other. And so I think actually writing it down, it helps my memory kind of see on paper, okay, like these are all my responsibilities for the day, right? Or this is what is on my list right now. What are the top 3 that I need to get done that is either going to move the needle in my business or make me feel like I won my day, right? Our whole theme at FitBody, it's always win your day, win your day. And so sometimes I used to write down like, make my bed, like set my clothes out. That needs to be already the standard, right? Like that should be expected of you already in that area of your life. And so I write down the top 3 things daily that needs to get done. And for some reason, that's always given me that peace of mind. Whenever I'm able to check that off, those are the 3 big things. I'm like, okay, we're good another day.
Yeah. Well, and it's like for me, just that mental brain dump, like having a place, like when you have all these thoughts and you don't want to forget something, just write it down. Like if you write it down, at least it's somewhere on your kitchen counter and you won't forget.
Yeah, I would say in the nutrition world, if you're somebody that's looking to stay more consistent with eating nutritiously and eating healthy, prepping your proteins ahead of time has always been a big hack for me because essentially that takes the longest.
Right.
So whether it's putting ground turkey or lean beef in the skillet, maybe it's chicken in the crock pot, I can easily throw my cooked protein sources onto a bed of lettuce and a bowl with rice, on a sandwich, whatever it may be. And so that helps me stay on point by taking care of myself throughout the day by eating nutritiously.
Love it. I need to do more of that.
Yeah.
Well, Christen, I have loved sitting down with you and just sharing your message and your story with our listeners. Is there any other parting pieces of wisdom you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yes, I would like to say, have the conversation, take the leap of faith. When you're passionate about something, you will not fail. Don't leave asking yourself the what if. I can tell you countless times of ways that I have already messed up in my business already, but you will figure it out. Everything is always figure outable. And so when you are solution minded, like then you're just working towards that every day, you will find the answer always. So when in doubt, don't be scared to have the one conversation because you never know where it can lead you.
Oh, I love it so much.
So,
all right. So,
thank you.
Yeah. So one last question I have to ask. This is it. I feel like I keep saying one more. My one last question, and I like to leave our audience with this. I like to ask all my guests is, what does living beyond the scale mean to you?
Living beyond the scale to me means it's everything that you consume, everything that you digest to make you feel whole. So without just living for numbers or anything like that, living beyond the scale means truly understanding how you're feeling whole outside of, I would say, the scale. Like what you're consuming nutrition-wise, content-wise, emotionally, everything that you consume is how you're going to live beyond the scale. And if it's anything that feels toxic, cut it.
I love it. Well, Christen, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I got incredible value from this episode, just sitting down with you, and I know our listeners will as well. Where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, so I am one of the owners of Ashburn FitBody Bootcamp. If you're looking for, I would say, gym fitness content, you can find me on Instagram at Ashburn FitBody, or my personal is Christen_Zamm, Zamm, and that's where I post a lot of, I would say, more vulnerable content, more personal experience. But yeah, mainly on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, or if you're anybody in the Ashburn community, you can go to novafitbody.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, MK.